All right, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you are refreshed from your coffee break and ready for the final panel session of the day. Now, this is a topic that is particularly relevant to many of you, and the topic is career journey in the capital market and investment management industry. So, we will be exploring the perks, the challenges, the prospects, and most importantly, the strategies for success in this industry. And I'm thrilled to introduce our speakers for this session. And I'm really excited to highlight that this is an all women powered panel. So, ladies and gentlemen, first in the lineup, I would like to introduce Yang Berbahagia Datin Azleen Osman Rani, Director of the Institute for Capital Market Research, Malaysia. And joining her is Yang Mulia Tengku Zarina Tengku Chik, CEO of the Securities Industry Development Corporation. And last but certainly not least, we have Ms. Yasmin Zolkefli, Associate Director at Willis Towers Watson. And moderating this discussion is Dr. Rosliza from FIMM. Please join me to welcome them to the stage.
And a very good evening. Oh, at least you guys are still alert. Okay, first of all, on behalf of FIMM, I would like to thank all of you for attending our annual conference for this year. We have finally come to the last session titled Career Journey in the Capital Market and Investment Management Industry. Well, being the last session is always challenging, yeah? So I could see there are some empty seats. I could see some of your brain might be flying somewhere, thinking about the traffic jam, etc. So I will try to do justice for today for the next 1 hour. So without further ado, let me start the session by putting a simple Slido, because I need to make sure your brain is with us for the next 1 hour. So if you could put up the Slido, please. The Slido question. All right, so the question is, what is the theme of 2023 FIMMAC, if you remember? Wow, excellent, excellent, excellent. Okay. Well, first of all, let me say to those who are in this auditorium, can you please raise your hand? Left or right, doesn't matter. Put it across your shoulder and pat your shoulder. Well done. Including to those who are actually on virtual mode as well. Thank you for your dedication and commitment. Brilliant that about 96% of the audience, you got it right. Okay. Now, that was just our ice-breaking session because I just wanted to see whether you are with me. Now let's go into the specific conversation about the potential career path in the capital market or investment management industry. Is it a good career for me? Can I make a living out of it? I am sure some of these questions are burning in your mind or in your heart that you would like to find out. That's why you are actually in this session. To help answer all these three questions, I have three distinguished panelists with us today who will be sharing their perspective on some of the talent trends and practices in Malaysia. On that note, it gives me great pleasure to introduce and welcome our panelists for this session. Just give me a second, yeah, because I'm holding the mic and the clicker. The first one that I would like to welcome, the first panelist, Datin. Datin Azleen, she's a director from Institute for Capital Market Research. You have heard her just now. So please give her a warm welcome. So the next panelist, we have Tengku Zarina, or better known as TZ. All right, she's the CEO from the Securities Industry Development Corporation. Another round of welcome to her. And finally, the youngest among all, we have Yasmin Zolkefli, who is the Associate Director from Willis Towers Watson, Malaysia. Thank you. Like what the speaker has mentioned, these are all ladies pack, jam pack for today. I noticed like there were gentlemen session before, but these are basically ladies. Why? Well, capacity building generally is about nurturing. It's about building the people. Encouraging the growth of the individual. So I think ladies, we can do a good job. Yeah, not being biased. Gentlemen also can do the same. All right. I understand that there are a mixed crowd for today, ranging from seasoned industry players, directors, mid-career professionals, consultants, as well as some aspiring students or talents who would like to join our industry. So maybe to help us have a better understanding or to moderate this session better, can I ask the organizer, can you please put another Slido question? Because we would like to know whether, what kind of demographic that we have for our audience in this session. Organizer, can you put the second poll question, please? All right, so if you could take a quick moment, can you just put the response? Okay. I am, whether you are a consultant, whether are you the students that is dialing in, or whether you are other professionals in this industry. Okay. It seems like we don't have that many students. Okay, because we thought there will be a group of students actually dialing in. Okay, that's fine, but anyway. So my panelists, okay, not a problem. So basically, majority, you can see that about 70% is basically our consultants. These are the audience that we have for today. Okay. So now, in order to sort of provide some career aspiration, because I am sure some of you might be a new consultants, some of you might be a middle age in terms of your experience, the middle journey, or some of you could be a very experienced consultant. So I also would like to invite our panelists to share with you some of the simple career journey, if they could share some of the defining moment or experience that have helped them in shaping their career to where they are today. So if I could start that with Datin, maybe followed by TZ, and after that, Yasmin.
Okay, thanks, Dr. Liza. Before I start, just want to thank FIMM and also Kalyon for inviting me yet again to speak at FIMMAC. I'm beginning to feel like I'm a regular feature here, but the topics that I get invited on to speak about change. So today we're speaking about career journey. Very quickly, I think right at the outset, I think it's worth mentioning that in terms of career journeys, I would say that everyone's career journey is very personal. So it's very subjective. Myself specifically, don't worry, I won't be talking about my CV here. But very, very quickly, I think retrospectively, when I look back at my career, it does look like it's all planned out, very linear. I've always been, right from graduation, I've always been in the financial markets, from corporate banking to corporate finance, to asset management research, to now policy research. But actually, as I unpacked it a little bit more for this particular session, I realized that I didn't have it all planned out. So for those who are just embarking on their career, I didn't really know that what I was going to do 20 years down the road, right? But what I did do, so maybe this is something that may resonate with some of you, was that in every job role or whatever position I was in, I took the time to reflect on some of the motivational factors that drove me. And when I say motivational factors, it tends to be more intrinsic, so not so much your title or the pay, but what was the underlying intrinsic motivational factors that leverage on your own strengths, your own skill sets. So for myself, it was very much driven by elements like curiosity, learning, growth, purpose, so those were the kind of things that I kept looking out for with each and every role. So I think that's my 2 cents, Doc.
Thank you. Thank you, Datin. So maybe we could go to TZ to show her a bit of a colourful journey.
Assalamualaikum and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, FIMM, and thank you, Kalion, for inviting, and Dr. Liza for inviting me for this session. Me and SIDC, for that matter. I told Dr. Liza just now that I should be speaking last because 1 minute for a career journey is going to be very tough for me to say, to put it in that short time. But basically, I think if you have my CV and things like that, Azleen said that we're not going through the CV. But I guess my experiences over the years, I started as a banker. It's been many years. I can say for sure that I've gone through many crises. I think my career started with a Asian crisis, 97. And then I was in Hong Kong for a bit, and I went through the SARS pandemic time. And then when I was in the UK, I went through the financial crisis again, the European financial crisis in the 2008, 2009 thereabout. And then you got Icelandic in part and parcel of that crisis. And then I came back to Malaysia. And things happen, and now we just went through the COVID pandemic. So from there you can gauge how long I've been with the industry. I was a banker, and then turned and then I'm back to I'm in the regulated zone right now for the last 6 years. So it's been different, but I think my experiences over the years going through those crises, what I found out for myself is that I started as a specialist. As I go along, I got the experiences of opportunities to actually go into the people aspect of the organization. I thought I didn't like it before. I don't know how to manage people before. I was very specialized being an analyst, and I think all the crises actually showed us the way that there is the need for you to actually start look at the humanizing way of approaching people. And I think my role also, has been given that kind of opportunities for me to manage people at some point. And I thought I was very scared when I got a role that I have to manage people. And but I did, and that is where the turning point. I love people. I discovered that it's not that difficult actually, and I was very passionate about people's development and so forth, and to come to this level where I was given the opportunity, I'm given the opportunity to lead SIDC, where a major part of our role is actually for talent development, professional development for the capital market. So I'm in a very good space right now to do what I've already, discovered along the way, not by design, but by my experiences along the way. So it's more like experiential learning for me to discover where I am. It's a long way, but the purpose was found, and I'm here speaking to you now as a CEO of SIDC.
Thank you.
That's a nutshell.
Thank you. Okay, maybe we can go with Yasmin.
So I guess maybe mine will be slightly shorter. But I think firstly, thank you very much to FIMM for inviting me to be part of the panelists. So truly honored. When it comes to my, career journey, and it's not that recently, unfortunately, of me graduating from university, but I joined corporate HR, took up a group HR role, spent around 2.5 years there. And when I made my next career move, it was with a very clear focus and purpose of wanting to build my HR expertise. And this is where, in that first move, what a better way than to join a consulting industry, right? So that's where I then made the shift into Willis Towers Watson, which is a global HR advisory. So slightly of an outlier. I don't have a career in this space, but through a lot of the work that we do with clients, whether it's the bank, working with investment house or other fund management house, I think this is where being able to bring that perspective. But when I joined, I was thinking I'll join for 2-3 years, maybe, build that HR expertise and then cabut balik into the corporate HR side of things. But let me tell you, next year is going to be my 10th year in Willis Towers Watson, 1st April of next year. And I think this is where, to Datin's point, right, that intrinsic motivation of why do you stay in a certain career will differ from people to people. And what I learned for myself was that working with a lot of clients, across different industry, the motivation of always learning new things, taking on new challenges is what drives me when it comes to my career journey, or at least and staying in that consultant space.
Thank you. Thanks all my panelists. So sounds familiar to some of you in terms of like the starting point. Each of our starting point is very different. I believe some of you start your career journey. It could be from ground zero after SPM. Straight away you join this industry and you stay loyal. Thank you, well done. But there are also people who actually halfway along the career, they might have climbed the ladder, getting tired of certain things, going the routine work. Then you actually join this unit trust and private retirement scheme industry. Or there could also be people who are actually coming into this space or the industry as a part-time element, to fill up your time, something that, you like to meet people. So this is actually the beauty of this industry. So that's why I wanted to start this conversation on the career journey, because you can see that, the entry point to unit trust and private retirement scheme, it can be at any point in time, as long as your heart desires. So with that, how big is this industry? Well, I could see that, about 70% of you guys are from this industry. So this is a no-brainer. So I'm going to be a quick one on this statistic. So basically, out of 3.6 trillion of the Malaysian capital market, basically a quarter of this, the unit trust and private retirement scheme or the investment management industry, it represented about 25% of our industry. So you are actually, part of the journey in the capital market. So now, I am sure some of you, because a lot of you guys are actually consultants. So some of you might be wondering what kind of career journey that I can have, for young consultants, take this as part of the the potential career path for you. I am sure for some of the consultants here who are very senior, this is take it as a refresher for you. As an example, on the left side, you can see that upon joining this industry, usually when you join this industry, usually at the entry level, most likely you might be called wealth advisor. And then after that, you will start a climb towards the middle management level. These are just some of the titles that some of the corporate structure. When I say corporate structure, this one I usually refer to, let's say, the investment banks, the banks, where they have a bit more structured development for you as an employee. And then, of course, as years goes by, in terms of your experiences that you have accumulated, then you will go towards the senior management role. So these are just some of the names or the title. On the other hand, if you actually work towards the agency structure, these are usually the typical 4-level, a group agency structure where the starting point is always, being a consultant or agent. Then after that, a few years down the line, as you become familiar with the products and servicing your clients, then you will become the agency supervisor, moving along, an agency manager, and eventually to become the group agency manager, where you will have your own sort of setup, where you will be managing your own resources. So here, before I forget as well, in this industry, we have more than 100 plus employers, and it has provided job opportunities to more than 60,000 consultants. So for aspiring, because unfortunately we don't really have students, but if you do have the people who are aspiring, might not be for you, but it could be for your children, it could be for your nieces or nephews who are graduating. So maybe you can actually promote this industry. This is what you call that, a quarter of 3.6 trillion industry, and there are potential what you call career development for these people. In becoming consultants, well, I'm sure all of you are already here. You will have passed the minimum requirements. So I'm just going to tell you what are the basic if you want to be a consultant. First of all, you need to be 21 years old. You have to have at least 3 credits, and then you have to pass the necessary computerized examination for unit trust or private retirement scheme, and finally, you must be fit and proper. So these are the 4 basic elements or 4 basic criteria that a person, aspiring person who wants to be a consultant needs to fulfill. So now, Yasmin. So I think I've been giving them quite a bit of the background in terms of what are the potential career path, in terms of the requirements to be a consultant, etc. So since you work very closely with the talents on the ground, can you share with us on the general employment landscape and what motivates these individuals to choosing the different kind of employments? Because like on the left side, those are usually a bit more fixed remuneration structure, and on the right side is a little bit more of variable type. So I pass to you.
Thank you, Doc. So I think perhaps, when we look at the employment trends, right, for Malaysia, we do see there is that positive momentum for the labor market. It is expected to grow around that 16.3 million persons or individuals that's going to be in the workforce with a median age of around 38 years old. Last year was 36, and maybe I'll ask the audience to just kind of keep that note right, at the back of their mind, and I'll circle back off to why, or you'll see why in a bit. And maybe amidst this backdrop, I think kind of being able to share more on the corporate side of things, there's three key things that I want to be able to share with the audience. Firstly, when we look at that demand and opportunity on the corporate lens, right, of the asset management industry, the banking industry, which is where your wealth management advisors are in, there is still that demand and opportunity. Second, it still remains a very lucrative industry to be in, precisely to your point, the fixed element as well as the variable, because there's both parts to it. But maybe the third part to this that I want to be able to share, is this still true for the fresh graduates, or rather the Gen Zs? And I'll circle back to why in a bit, right? So maybe on the first note, when it comes to that demand and opportunity, and if you don't mind going to the next slide, from our compensation survey that Willis Towers Watson runs, we do see there is that new hires being onboarded into the asset management and banking industry space at the rate of around 4%. We do expect that to remain fairly the same for this year, if not at an increase. Unfortunately, our latest data is only going to be published next month, so I guess keep an eye out for that. And when you talk about what is the most hired jobs, it is in this space, right? So the asset management side, that's where the investment portfolio management, the asset management sales and marketing, really at that middle manager and senior professional, and maybe this is where they've gained some of the experience, whether it's at agent workforce, then they come into corporate. And on the banking side, perhaps more of the 3 to 5 year type of experience, we see the most hired jobs in the private banking space, which is your wealth management, right? So that's sort of that first key message. And why this is so, I think circling to the second point, where it's still a lucrative industry to be in, it's because our data also shows from a pay perspective. That is where the asset management industry is still one of the most competitive industries to be in, from a fixed pay element, right? And when you tap on the variable, which is also something that the talents out there find it interesting, that's where the competitiveness further increase. And even for banking, right, they may not be as competitive when you just talk about fixed pay, but the minute you factor in the variable, it also increases. So this combination of both pay and variable is the reason why on the corporate side, still a very attractive industry. And it is one of the, not one of, it's the number one reason when it comes to talent attraction and retention, followed by what are the health benefits and retirement plans that companies are offering me. And especially nowadays, the more emerging one is, do I get the flexible working hours? Is there well-being support? And interestingly enough, or maybe because of, again, the day and age that we are in, what is the company's stand when it comes to diversity and inclusion, as well as climate initiatives? So all these factors is something that the talents are looking for when they talk about wanting to join a company, right? And the reason for it. But maybe if I circle back on the pay aspects of things, this to the third point, when we look at fresh graduates, however, and maybe this is where they have that pull factor of perhaps joining more of the agency model or more entrepreneurial, the fresh graduate pay in terms of competitiveness drops for asset management and banking. And that is where, if you go into the next slide, Doc, if you don't mind, for fresh grad, it's actually more interesting to join other industry, right? The oil and gas, education, pharma, etc., right? And this is actually an interesting thing to note because I then got the team to kind of do a cut of the data by demographics. And what the data showed is that we see a reduction of new hires, the Gen Z new hires, being for the asset management and banking industry. It actually dropped from, if I'm not mistaken, 39%, maybe in the next slide if you don't mind, it dropped from 33% last year to 18% Gen Z new hires. And similarly for the wealth management side of the banking industry, we also see that narrative, right? And maybe the key question here is, on the corporate side at least, what are we doing in order to kind of attract the Gen Zs to enter or start their career with the corporate, especially when there's so many alternative employment opportunities out there, right? Least of all, you know, the agent model and structure, but you start talking about the gig economy, the passion economy. Some of them would rather, you know, be a creator and you know, do YouTubes and TikTok videos. So I think this is where maybe on the corporate side, it's more around what is going to be that value proposition that we can bring to the table, especially knowing the Gen Z motivations are very different compared to your millennials and Gen X. So I think that's something that I'll pose to the audience, have a think about, and I think this is where I'm sure the other panelists will share on further as well.
Yeah, you said it right. Like, you know, I think this part I wanted to connect with the Gen Z because I think Datin, she, you know, ICMR come out with a research on the trends, the rise of millennials and Gen Z investors, trend, opportunities and challenges in Malaysia back in 2021. But the research, it was more towards the investors' perspective. But nevertheless, it was noted that stability of income was actually cited as one of the key factors to be able to plan and manage finances. And the recommendation also mentioned about the policymakers or financial institutions should use different tools or have different mindsets in assessing individuals' financial stability who are on freelance or gig economy. So I guess this is, you know, like, you know, the banks or even the policymakers, they can't simply use like, you know, one size fits all. When you are on the gig economy, even though your income is steady, but it's not exactly steady or stable as per the normal corporate structure. So maybe with that, following that observation or the reports, so maybe I can ask Datin, how has there been much progress from the policymaker or financial institutions in addressing the subject? And also, if you could add, do you also think the profession as consultants would be suited, you know, for our new Gen Z, even though there is a slight drop there?
Okay, thanks, Doc. I think we should have had a poll of how many percent we have of the audience who are millennial and Gen Zs, because there's so much interest in this demographic. So as Dr. Liza pointed out, ICMR, which we are an affiliate of the Securities Commission, but we do more on the research side. We conducted a study back in 2021. Post that study, we actually did a few more studies related to investor behavior. So maybe I can look at that question from a two-pronged perspective. First is you asked about whether policymakers and intermediaries are actually, what is their progress on this? And the second part is whether unit trust consultants are suited for that. So really in the context of that report, as Dr. Liza highlighted, was really looking at investor behavior, specifically for millennials and Gen Zs. And at that point, so it was we were addressing it from a more investor side of things. But as Yasmin pointed out, if you recognize that when you brought up the point about stability of income, if you recognize that, and acknowledge that there's probably a shift in the employment landscape, as more entrepreneurial opportunities become more attractive, whether or not it's unit trust consultants or anything like that. This could be driven by various factors. Some could be very low early wages, or the rise of gig platforms or services sector, or the need just to want more autonomy and independence. So it can be basically, it's not just specifically on unit trust consultants, but it's very cuts across a wide variety of roles, right? So from the independent chiropractor to the Grab driver to the freelance consultants. So the main thing was, as Dr. Liza pointed out, the earnings is going to be a lot more variable, and you also have when you think about financial planning, this will also have an effect. So if you're looking at it from a client perspective, you have to recognize and be cognizant that the way they earn income is different than your typical employee. So in terms of policymakers and intermediaries, I would say that the awareness is increasing, and there's more robust discourse regarding how we need to understand human behavior and how it shapes financial decisions. If you're operating in the policy space, there's always this sort of disconnect between what we want from a policy objective. We want everyone to save for retirement, but at the same time, we understand that there might be some behavioral biases, so you see why people would withdraw, for instance, from their retirement savings, right? So we really need to dig down a little bit deeper and understand their true barriers, their motivations and attitudes towards savings. And I think with FIMM, they've also, done a webinar where you've invited Prof. Joanne Yong, who's a research fellow at ICMR, and she's really working with us more closely to really work on the behavioral economics aspects of our work. So if anyone is interested, those reports are on the website, www.icmr.my. Specifically for those reports, they're all under the financial inclusion tab. The second part of the question was more on unit trust consultants. I would say it's a very personal thing again. It really depends on your own motivations and what your goals are, right? So if you're a unit trust consultant, there could be various reasons why you decided to join the agency structure, for instance. There is a flagship report called the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor. It's a very interesting report. It really looks at sort of the key drivers of each country's entrepreneurship ecosystem. So there's one thing that struck me was the difference between opportunity entrepreneurship and necessity entrepreneurship. So if you're looking at, so it goes back to your own individual goals. If you're looking at it as an opportunity entrepreneurship, means you are looking at it from a long-term perspective. How can you build your agency network? How can you increase your income? You're looking at the growth opportunities, But if you're looking at it from a necessity opportunity, entrepreneurship, necessity of entrepreneurship. It could be because it's a stopgap measure, for instance. You've lost your job, COVID happened, and you needed something to sort of, fill that as a stopgap employment. And so it's really worth identifying when you speak to agents, it's really to understand their motivations and goals, because the drivers for whether or not it's a necessity type of entrepreneurship and an opportunity type of entrepreneurship will be very, very different. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, interesting. And the name of the report again is called Global Entrepreneurship Report, right?
Global Entrepreneurship Monitor. Sorry, we had to do that because we were doing a separate study, but when I saw that, I thought it was worth mentioning at this forum.
Yeah. I think it's a good report that I think maybe some of you, especially if you are aspiring to have, let's say, your own agency, I think it will be something of a good report for you to read, to see what kind of motivation or the differentiators, I guess.
Because I think when you highlighted just now, the way agency structures work is that you also have to bring in new agents, right?
Correct.
And you might not understand why some are more motivated to stay for the long term and some are not so. So I think it's worth understanding it a little bit more.
Okay, so connecting to that, so now we are talking about the new talent. So maybe at this point, I would like to maybe ask TZ, to ensure the continuous supply of talent within the capital market. Can you share with us some of the efforts or some success stories that have been taken by SIDC in in attracting or retaining talent in this industry?
Okay, thanks, Rosliza. I think I don't have any statistics with me, like the other two ladies here, but I think I can summarize whatever that you can get from here. You as consultants, all of you, most of you here in the hall, is that you can see the industry that the talents are going to be in, how much they are being paid. I think that's a very good data for you to start, planning for your target group. And I think investor behavior is another key point that Datin Azleen has already mentioned. That will be good for you to also know the motivation of the investors, which is going to be basically your target group as well. Now, my target group for this session are the students today, but the students are not there. Apparently, the poll comes at 0. I understand they are supposed to be on the virtual platform. They must have logged out earlier than the professionals we have here.
Maybe we have secret students, is that?
Yeah?
They just don't want to declare they're students.
Maybe. But I do see here, although we don't have the poll, I think half of the room may have children or young family members that will be, I guess, will be interested in what I'm going to share later. But SIDC as a whole, as mentioned just now, that our mandate is actually to look at the development of our professionals in the market, as well as generating the young talents as well. Yes. Now, over the years, by the way, FIMM, happy 30th birthday. SIDC is going to be 30 next year. So throughout our journey of these 30 years, we have really trained more than 500,000 professionals. And we also have educated more than 8 million investors alongside the SC as well. And we have done many programs that's targeted for the young talents, to go back to your question. And in recent years, in the last 4 or 5 years, we have gone through, during the pandemic, we have done a Penjana initiative, where we were looking at initiatives where we can help to get work or reskill some of our colleagues from the other industries, hospitality or the airline industry, who were displaced. And we were helping them to be reskilled to become market reps. Yeah, I think we had a slot for about 100 seats, and I think about 95% of them have gone through the course, and 70% actually got a job in the industry. So that's good. And then after that, we've come to this. And along the year, we have been helping the Islamic capital market. We have a Islamic capital market training program that's spanned already about 12 years, and we have done 26 cohorts altogether. Nearly 1,000 students or graduates have been trained and fed back to the industry. This year, I think some of you may have seen the news that PM had launched the biggest, I would say, the graduate program for the industry, which is called Invested. So I do have a slide on Invested, if I may share that. Yeah, so those who have young talents in the house or students who have just logged in. So this Invested is a 2-year program that was funded by the Capital Market Development Fund. The brand Next Gen Capital Market Talent basically it does what it says. Basically, you just want to churn out more capital market talents. Yeah. If you've seen the stats that was given by Yasmin just now, right? You can see that the number of young talents coming to industry is very low, right? And a research that was done by Datin Azleen's team alongside SIDC as well, we discovered that the demographics of the professionals in the market has been aging. And I think those who actually belong to the group of 30 years below is only about 8% of the whole industry. And 50% of our professionals are in my age group. So it's already a retiring demographic, and we need to actually, replace this. Yep. So this program is meant to cater to basically create awareness what capital market is all about. I think we belong to this industry, but sometimes we don't realize what is capital market all about, right? But we know ultimately capital market is where the whole economy, the whole development of the nation is fueled with. Yeah, we do the funding, and with the funding of the businesses that we have, we created the investment vehicles where you are all, trying to distribute. But maybe before this, the people thought that capital market is very much elitist group of industry that they don't come in. And maybe they feel that we are too technical for them to come in, too elitist to come in. So this is where this program is supposed for us to go out and create awareness that capital market is actually nation building kind of industry. So that's where we have got the first initiative, Career Fair, Securities Talks. We go around to universities. We target that within 3 years, we can educate about 9,000 students to create that kind of vibrancy and interest in the market. Yeah, these 9,000 students, they may not come in as talents, but they will be educated on investment vehicles, investment opportunity, and that can be your target group, right? We educate them, and you have got more educated investors who can come into you. Now, the second initiative is a foundation program. This is really the talent pipeline program, where we target about 2,400 students to be trained in foundational kind of technicalities for the capital market. This is where we provide them opportunities to go into the e-formalization program. We give them funding to do that. And they can even enter the Certified Capital Market Professional CCMP programs, compliance, and so forth. And we are developing now Sustainable and Responsible Investment Certification. So they can choose from there. We have a current participation, about 500 students who are sitting for these courses online. And that is ongoing. So this is where you can just tell your young family members, or even young clients for that matter, if they want to get that foundation program, fully funded. Yeah, they can just go through that QR code that is mentioned there. And then we have got the third tranche, which is the leadership program. This is where we want to create young leaders for the industry, right? So the target is for us to create 600 leaders. 3 cohorts altogether. The first cohort is really now undergoing a training program with the industry. The structure of this, where we have 1 month of full classroom training program for them, very packed with capital market and also economics courses and modules. And they will be followed by 6 months internship with the industry. So out of 171 participants that we have for this first cohort, 22 participants actually now train in the asset management industry. Not that many, but but we still have got that. Yeah, the rest are all in various parts of the capital market industry. You got the investment banks, you got the brokers, and so forth. That is based on cohort. So we'll be announcing second and third cohort next year. Yeah, it's a yearly cohort thing. So just watch out for the announcements, and we welcome all your, again, young talents or young family members who come in and join, because it's all fully funded. Fully funded. Yeah. So those are the gist of that invested, which I want to highlight a bit today, because that is this is the largest program that we have for the capital market to churn that young talents to help solve the stats that you saw just now.
Yes.
And on that, I think, Dr. Liza, I think it's okay for us to break the thing a bit by having some music.
Oh,
I have
yeah,
a video for
sure.
this.
Okay. Well,
that you can wake up sikit.
if we could do the show of the invested, like, basically, I think maybe just before they air the video, I just wanted to sort of emphasize, what TZ mentioned. This is a program for the capital market as part of the capacity building initiative by the necessary regulators, SIDC, etc. Right? So why don't you advise or encourage your family members, those who are actually graduating soon, please make use of this opportunity, because there is potential employers already, I guess. Upon
And your
joining.
young investors.
Yeah, yes.
Your clients, they have their own family members also. Just spread the news. And again, more educated they are,
Yep.
more products you can buy from you.
True. Okay. So if you could just air the invested video for a short while. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Rosliza.
All right. So I just wanted to pick up from what TZ mentioned about the potential investors, right? So now I want to direct the question to Datin. From the investors' perspective, what are the most valued item or services that are expected out of consultants? This is a bit more of adding value, perspective that we would like to.
I would start off, since, of course, we are an affiliate of the Securities Commission, so I would, be obliged to say financial fiduciary is key. So acting, of course, in the best interest of the client. Yeah. The second one I would say is, and I'm sure you had a session earlier today on AI and the role of technology and all that. So I think personalization would be very, very important, although AI is getting more and more sophisticated. But I think, again, going back to really understanding your clients' goals, giving them very regular updates, not sort of the sell and forget approach, a more holistic approach, I guess. And the third part, I would say, is it would be wise to understand some of the macro trends. So the first part was really looking at the specific industry. But if you look at the bigger picture macro trends, for instance, demographic changes, and this is something we look at through a number of our reports, which cut across different areas. But we see it as something which is a structural, cross-cutting trend which surfaces again and again, and really that really affects understanding and targeting who your real target market is. Because from one of our other studies, we looked at, obviously with COVID-19 and all that, we tend to look at objective measures of household income, at least from a policy framework, which they've announced that they are moving away from this. So usually it's T20, and then after that, M40, B40. But I think many of us would know that because of COVID, The B40 is now B50, and the T20 is potentially T10. I think one of the reports that we worked on, we said when it comes to finances, your perceived financial status also matters, right? So this is linked to more subjective measures, not so much are you in the T20 group? Do you have a lot of money that can invest? So it's a lot more nuanced than looking at it from an objective measure. So the part about, let's say, I always say that potentially we are looking, and we need a little bit more study on this, is what I call a shrinking middle. So the middle income class is shrinking as the rich gets richer, and the bottom 40 then expands. So your target market, you really have to hone in into who are in the target market space, right? And now what complicates this is a little bit more on the digitalization aspects. If you have the robo-advisory and very in the near term, you'll talk about robo plus AI and those kind of things, they're already targeting sort of those who are looking for very, very low fees, something which is very simple, very convenient, right? And then you look at the top 5%, they are mostly your high net worth, sophisticated investors. So if you have a shrinking middle, then you really have to understand how do you create value over and above what your robo can do. And if you look at, and I said this earlier to the panelists, I said, I think what you're seeing is what has been offered, the kind of level of services which the high net worth are accessing in today's market will slowly become more mainstream, in the sense that understand how the high net worth sophisticated investors, how they get their services, right? They are constantly being regularly updated on macro and market developments. Their clientele are also very financially educated. They're very savvy. They can have discussions about policy cycles, about macroeconomic trends, about the impact of geopolitics on the market, and how is this fund different from this fund? They know exactly, and information is always already out there. So how do you create more value than the robo, and then think about sort of mainstreaming what the high net worth investors get?
Yep, at the end of the day, it's about differentiating yourself from that's already available. Yep. Okay, so now I know that this morning we already had some panel that talks about the digital transformation, but this time, this digital transformation discussion is slightly different because we have an HR specialist because the previous one, I think a lot more of the IT specialist. So now, Yasmin, so maybe if I could ask you in this question, in your capacity as an expert in the work reward and career practice, how do you see the impact of AI towards talent acquisition, attraction, and retention within the next 3 to 5 years?
Thanks, Doc. Yeah, definitely in the HR space, a lot of our clients are talking to us about digital, about AI. How is this going to impact the workforce, right? And what we are seeing increasingly is the shift towards reinvention of jobs. And this is where to be able to realign work and be able to reskill people into more higher value added jobs, right? And I think this is where, yes, you're going to have your AIs, you're going to have your machines that's going to help support the work that is being carried out. But more critically, it's really to be able to answer two questions. One, which part of the work that can be done by the machines, whether it's the AI or any other digital tech out there, and two, which part of the work needs to still remain and be done by humans, and how do we sort of help the talent to reskill themselves and put them onto this higher value added career path, right? Getting into these higher value added roles. So if I just take an example, right, of what this at the end of the day means, if you think about the conventional bank, you have the bank teller job, right? You go into the counter, you chat with them and say, hey, I want to open up a bank account or I want to do some transaction. So they do all the processing, they do the verification. But this is where those type of activities where there's less variability, it's very repetitive, to a certain extent it's physical, those are things that is going to be done by the AI, etc., right? And this is where we see the bank teller job then evolving into more of a relationship manager role. And this is the part where robots, machines cannot do it, right? That interaction with the customers, building that rapport, understanding their needs, what are the challenges that they are facing. Those closer human interaction still needs to be remain with humans, right? And I think that is where the impact of digital and AI, yes, there's the machine, that's able to do certain things, but the human touch is still going to be important and critically for organizations to think about the quantification of work. Because if we can't quantify work, how do we figure out which parts of the job should be done by automation, etc., and which part by human? And I think to take on as what Datin has shared when it comes to the robo-advisory, right, and for the consultants, is then thinking to, as I go into that career path, sure, I have the robo-advisory that can do the algorithm, look at the financial problems or that risk tolerance, be able to provide the product recommendation. But for the consultants, it's providing that higher advisory and insights of more complex financial problems, understanding that specific individual nuances or circumstances that the customers have. And maybe thirdly, right, each of us will sometimes go through life-changing moments, right? Whether it's financial difficulty, family problems, and this could be where the consultants again do something that machines can't do, right? How do I, share with you, give you that support that's needed, and yeah, sure, certain products that may be relevant.
Well, very good. It has been quite a great length. So now, I've just seen the timer. We have reached to the end. So if there is one key takeaway that the panelists would like the audience to remember from our session, what would it be? So maybe I'll start with Datin.
I'll keep it very, very short since it says wrap up here. I think understand yourself, understand your clients, and keep learning and evolving.
Yep, great. Okay, TZ.
Can I just show this last slide? I think that can wrap up all of us.
Yes. Yep. I think go ahead, please take my wrap up as well.
And the next one.
Yep.
Next one.
Yes, some interesting.
Yes. Okay, this I think will be a good slide to just wrap up that discussions by the two ladies and what I showed you just now, that, we are talking about so many disruptions, right? And disruptions happens not just now, right? We have got AI, we've got the sustainability, which we have not touched just now, but I'm just saying that if any of the topics that you want to actually upskill yourself, it must be also sustainability, because your investors will soon demand sustainable products, your SRI funds, yeah? But I'm just showing here that every time you have got disruption, birth automobile within the 1920s, and shutting of European coal mines, yeah, 70s and 80s, and then rise of internet in 1990s and so forth, and now recent years, sustainability initiatives, and then emergence of AI, then you will know that there are a lot of jobs are being affected, right? I mean, there's so many stats showing that you can see some of the, in recent years, you can see that fossil fuel extraction worker, those who are in oil and gas, who are actually in the higher salary bracket, yeah, they might be affected. Yeah, so but being you may not need so many petroleum kind of engineering role, but the best part of it is that there's always new jobs to be created from these disruptions. And I think there's also another stat just now, Yasmin has shown that even though we've seen these kind of disruptions, the employment rate will still remain the same. So you can imagine these jobs that you have that will become obsolete will have new jobs creation. So the more reason then I will end the session, my session, to say that upskilling, reskilling, creating getting new knowledge for you to be able to remain relevant all the time. Yeah, so that is my key takeaway. But I thought this slide will give us that kind of
good
vision.
closing.
Yeah,
Yep.
thank
I
you
have
very
to
much.
start reskilling to become a content creator. Tida.
Yes. No, because I think we're talking about market research analysts right now. Last time we need, let's say, maybe 10 people in the group, and then they will be doing all the manual analysis, right? But now you can use AI to do that. But the analysis skill can still be used, but now you can become a consultant already instead of just doing the number crunching.
Content.
Or you want to be content
Yes.
creator?
No,
Yeah,
content
you can do that as well.
Okay.
Thanks, Doc.
All right, thanks, Lisa. So maybe last word, Yasmin?
I think just going to echo what the other panelists has said. I think at the end you talk about, this industry. It's really going down to all the stakeholders playing a key role, right, to ensure the ecosystem remains vibrant, whether it's, from the corporate side, the agent model, SIDC in providing the development programs and so on. So it's an effort as a collective stakeholders.
Great. Well, we have covered a great length for today's discussion, and I hope you have benefited from the discussion points that have been raised by our panelists. Well, I believe capital market is an exciting industry to be, and we look forward to having you as part of our fraternity and remains to be in our fraternity. So with that, I thank to all the panelists and thank you for your time and have a very good evening.